Hey team, it is review season at the company that I work for. And I wanted to take some time to show how I prepare for that because it really is a year long process for me using this, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, the reason it's a year long process is because review season only comes once a year, just like Christmas, just like other holidays, right? In some places, it's more often. So you might find this useful even then. This is what I call the jar of awesome. And it is not my term. I found this online, so you can go and do a search for jar of awesome, and they will talk about something very similar. I think they usually recommend decorating the jar. I don't do that. But here it is. It is a glass jar, okay? Nothing magical about it, and some post its. I use post its. You could use slips of paper, fold it up, whatever suits you. But I use post its, okay? This is actually not my jar. My jar is right here, okay? So you can see that it is very full. There's lots going on in here, and this is going to supply a lot of information when I go to do my self-assessment, okay? Very often, people will get into that self-assessment, and it will be a paragraph long, maybe a few bullet points. But when I do it, because of everything in here, it is quite substantial, which is very, very important. We'll talk about that in a few seconds, okay? For today, I'm using this one because it's a little bit more colorful, and I'm not showing the world all the stuff that I've done this year, okay? Especially client work, which I'm not allowed to talk about on these videos. So here we go. We have the thing, okay? Now, the first question is why? Why would I use a jar of awesome? Well, on the one hand, it is a really cool visual, okay? To see this fill up over time, it might be kind of empty to start, but then over time, it will fill up and you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to watch that happen over the course of a review cycle, which is really, really cool, especially if you hit those dark days, right? Because not every day is sunshine and lollipops. Sometimes you have days where things just don't want to work for you. And you can look at the jar of awesome and say, no, wait a minute. I've done some stuff. I've done some really cool stuff in here. And I know that I have worth. So it can help lift you out of that dark spot and get you back to what you're good at. Okay? So as a mental health check, very, very solid. You can even pull some out and open them up and read them if you need just that little bit of extra. But the way that I usually use it is as a bit of a dumping ground, a second brain, if you will, in preparation for review cycles. So every review cycle, I will empty it out and use it, and I'll show how that works in a second. And I will start with some post-its, okay? And then when I get to my review cycle, it acts as the primary evidence for everything that I've done in that cycle. In my case, a full year, okay? Why not digital, right? I get that a lot. Why not digital? And it's because digital is out of sight, out of mind for me, okay? Because it's a file on your computer, I need to remember where it is, when it is. I need to go and do stuff. You could go and script that, but it still feels very disconnected, and there is no visual over time, right? Being able to see the jar fill up. So I strongly recommend doing it old school with a jar like this because it's always there. It's always on my desk. Even if I forget to put something in and it's been maybe a week or two, right? I might see the jar and go, oh, wait a minute, I have some things to add, right? And they are fresh enough. I'm not going to be a year down the line going, what did I do back 7 months ago or 8 months ago? What did I do? It's all right here, okay? So I strongly encourage not going digital, going with this. Very easy, okay? And you can just do it. You could get off a call with a client. Client might have said something really nice to you. You jot it down, you toss it in the jar. It's right there, right? So easy. So getting started, we start with some post-it notes, okay? And then the marker, which I keep in the jar so I don't lose it. Okay. I use a chunky marker so that I'm not writing whole novels in here, but you might get some comments or something and you write it down. Okay. You write down a few points, maybe a bullet point or two, and you get on with it. Okay. You close that up, toss it back in so you don't lose it, and take this away. Nice and flat. There are ways to do that, but here we are. The sticking part is right here. Okay. If you, I don't know if the light picks it up, but it's a little bit darker than this, this orangey yellow. I made probably a bad choice of doing yellow on my mat here, but going on. So the sticky part is right here. I'm going to leave it there and fold it. Okay. And the reason that I do that is because now I can fold that sticky part together just like this. And now it sits nice and flat. It's not going to accidentally open up or anything like that. You get it, you toss it back in the jar, you close it up and get back to work. Nice and fast. Okay. Review season comes along and it's time, right? It's time to crack open the jar and see what you've done, because I guarantee you, you will have forgotten some of the things that you put in this jar. It happens. Okay. But that's the nice thing about having the jar, is that you don't really need to remember, right? You don't need to remember because you've captured it. And if you've captured it, then it's there. Okay. But you can start opening these up, right? Most of these are going to be blank because this is my demo, right? But you start making piles, and it's hard to see where that is. There it goes, right? So a bit of a card sort here where you start to come up with similar themes, right? Maybe you open this one and it's over here. Again, I don't use color to dictate anything. So maybe there's a pile over there. Oh, I accidentally ripped that one. That's okay though, because they aren't meant to last forever, right? That's the beauty of them. So we can do that. Wow, some of these are really sticky. That's weird. Bad Post-its. Apparently I used the bad Post-its for this, but that's okay. Some of them wedged together. That's okay, right? But you're just making those piles. And over time, you are going to create a narrative, okay? That narrative might be around something that looks like this, right? You might have a pile for leadership and a pile for mentorship and a pile for client stuff, various client work. Maybe there's a pile for how you've improved code-wise. Maybe you've taken a bunch of courses, stuff like that. Maybe you have a pile around that. If you blasted out 7 PRs in one day, right? Write it on a Post-it note, put it in the pile, right? Put it in the jar. All that stuff. Quotes, stuff like that. It all goes in, whether it's project, client, mentorship, all of it, whatever that is. And with these piles, you are going to start creating a narrative. Now, some of these, you might find that you have more than one Post-it that have the exact same thing. It's like you mentored this one person several times. Okay, well, get rid of one. Not important, right? Because you've already told the story. It's there, okay? So if some of them go away because they're repeats, that's a good thing. But having zero, right, not remembering something that was really important, that would be bad. So get it in the jar, even if you do it several times over the year, okay? And you're going to open them up, and again, you're going to remember. It's like, oh, wow, I completely forgot about that thing, right? Which is good. That's a really good reminder. Now, the narrative, right? You start talking about these, and the way that I do this, it does become a proper document, almost short story length, right? It borders on not being able to be read in a single sitting, but that's how I do it. Okay, so I'll start out at the top of the document with some bullet points, kind of a TLDR, and then I will set up a heading for, let's say, leadership. And I will bullet point or write a paragraph about the things that I did in leadership, and another heading for mentorship, all the things that I did in mentorship, right? And I'll do 5 or 6 of these different headings based on what I'm trying to achieve, right? Whether that's the next promotion level, right? Or just a a standard salary increase, right? Whatever that looks like, that's kind of what I'm targeting my narrative to. But because of everything, right? I'm going to have all this information, just tons of information. And that's the important bit, okay? So once I have this document, I turn it in, right? And my manager or my career developer will review it, and hopefully they won't be surprised by it. So that's another part, is none of this should be a surprise to whoever is reading it. There should be some delight in here, right? Where they see a thing and they're like, oh wow, I forgot that Dave did that. Or, oh wow, that plays really well with what I was thinking Dave should be doing. Or you, unless your name is Dave, then cheers to you, right? But it shouldn't be a surprise. That's the important part. So if they get that document and they're like, no, wait a minute, what am I missing? Right? That's a bad disconnect. So I also like to refer back to these in my one-to-ones. So when I'm having a one-to-one with my manager, my career developer, I will reference some of this. Or in companies where you might not do review cycles for whatever reason, I hope that you do. Say it in the channel, right? Say it in your stand-ups. It's like, yesterday I completed 7 PRs yesterday. That's a lot of work. 7 PRs in a single day, it's a lot. Whatever that number is for you, okay? Maybe it's not. Maybe you do a lot of 7 PR days. That's good too, okay? But document it all. And then because they have the document and you have the document, now all cards are on the table. So when they come back and start talking about promotions or increases, now you have that really solid body of evidence that will let you negotiate from a position of power, from a position of strength, okay? So this is it. This is the jar of awesome. And again, when I'm done, right, I will hold on to these just for a little bit until the review cycle is complete, until everybody has signed off on it. And then I will get myself a new color of Post-its and start again, right? So, right, they're green right now. I might go with orange, or I might pick a different color. Who knows, okay? But this is the jar of awesome, and I really encourage you to give it a try and try it completely, right? Just leave it on your desk every time. I usually have the Post-its on top because they don't really fit in, and the pen is inside, right? And then every time something cool happens, I put it in the jar, and it is there, okay? Give it a try, and let me know how it works for you. If it worked great, I want to hear those stories. If it didn't work, I also want to hear those stories because I would like to learn what isn't working. I feel like it's been very successful for me. If it isn't successful for other people, I would like to find out why and try to improve on that, okay? Until then, I hope your day is awesome, no pun intended, and your jar is full. Have a good day, all.